Hello, good evening, televiewers. Welcome to Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We are glad to be in front of your screens and equally very glad to know that you have been expecting to find out what we have in store for you today. And we certainly are not going to disappoint you, because today we are going to be looking for ways on how to rebuild the foundations of this nation, Cameroon. We look at what has gone wrong in the past and where things need to be fixed so that the nation can come back to normal ways and even better. Equally looking very briefly at what is happening in Yaoundé with the pre-talks, especially with new developments reaching our newsroom out here at My Media Prime, where we have information that the separatist leaders out there in the diaspora have been served with invitations. We have seen copies of or samples of this invitation sent to persons like Mark Barretta, to persons like Yabacho Lucas, Chris Anu, and a host of others. We are going to be discussing on these topics with our panelists who are in the house. Two are still on their way, but two are with us already in the studio. Walang Abang is the director of the Mahatma African Leadership Center. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Bill. Thank you very much for inviting me here. It's always a pleasure to be on this platform. I want to greet my fellow panelist. Taku Siso. I'm meeting him for the first time. He looks a smart gentleman. I want to thank the millions of televiewers out there who are watching My Media Prime, especially Prime Hour at this moment. I really, really hope we're going to live up to their expectations.
Yeah. First, a reaction to news that separatist leaders have been invited to the Grand National Dialogue in Yaoundé.
My first reaction is one of, doubt. The action looks good, but, those people, are they going to come? Because they'll be asking themselves several questions, one of which is going to be, is there any guarantee for their freedom if, they come here and perhaps, because it's a dialogue, and in a dialogue, people may agree or people may disagree. So if they come here and they disagree with the position of the government of Cameroon, are they going to be free, or are they going to return to their various destinations as free people? Number two is that of security. There has been a lot of killing going on, even amongst, their supporters. Are they going to, if they come here and, dialogue and agree with some of or all of the terms or the conditions that are laid down by government, agree, a midway between secession and a unitary state, are they going to be safe amongst their own supporters, who are the secessionist fighters? So a lot of questions will be ringing in their minds as we talk now. That is what I just think for now. The rest will develop later.
Okay. Taku Siso is appearing in the program for the very first time. We are glad to have you.
Thank you very much. I think this is my first time on TV.
Okay.
And it's my first time on a program like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been following up this program, and I've been very interested. And I think the situation in the country concerns all of us. A lot of us have been talking in the air. A lot of us have been talking in the quartiers.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought it wise that at times it's good to come out and try to share your opinion with everybody, and, for people to also learn and understand what other people out there have in their mind. So I think I'm very, very happy to be part of this program, and I think I have a lot to share. And by the end of this program, I'm going to share my view and the view of a lot of people who are not having the opportunity to be here.
Okay. Certainly you might have seen copies of letters addressed to the diaspora leaders out there in the likes of the names I just cited at the beginning of this program. Do you think it's a good move for the government, and what should be their reaction?
Well, I think it's a very, very good mood, but I think if I have to go down to this problem we are facing, I think when we talk about dialogue,
yeah,
I think in my own opinion, I don't think dialogue is really a solution to the problem, because I think every reasonable Cameroonian knows the solution to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Every reasonable Cameroonian, especially the government, knows the solution. And going into a dialogue, in my own opinion, is going to cause more problem.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of argument, and the argument is just going to shift on the dialogue table.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, it's going to cause more problem. But I think if this problem needs to be solved, it's the government.
Okay.
And the government in place, not a new government. Because so many people feel like the solution to this problem is changing the government completely. I think this government in place needs to solve the problem. And to solve this problem, the government needs the people. I think from 1992 to 2016, Cameroon have been in peace, but the government has not been in peace. And the Cameroonians have been in pieces. Why do I say that? Because after the elections in 1992, there have been a lot of people have been disgruntled, a lot of Cameroonians. The government have tried to please a handful of people, Anglophones in particular. But I think it has not helped to solve the problem, because there's a problem which Cameroonians really fail to understand.
Okay, there's a problem that Cameroonians fail to understand, but the fact that the diaspora leaders have been invited by the organizers of this dialogue, you think it's a good move and that they should attend?
It's a very, very good move. But if they have to attend, there's one thing everybody who has to attend this dialogue has to take note. We are not coming to argue. We are coming to put a solution on the table. We have to keep every grudges aside.
Mm-hmm.
We have to strike a balance and let every Cameroonian
express themselves.
Yes, express themselves. It's the expressing doesn't mean arguing, because I know when I follow up a lot of programs on the TV, I realize that there's argument. There's argument on both sides, a lot of tension. And the tension is going to move to the dialogue table. And if it continues that way, there will be no solution to the problem.
Maybe the debate, the dialogue has started on TV platforms already to start preparing the minds of the people, and then people start removing this very tough energy in themselves, so that by the time they go to the dialogue table, they must express themselves to the level that, okay.
If you permit me, Mr. Bin, I want to differ a little with Mr. Takusi on one very important issue here that Cameroonians have taken so seriously for the past 37 years. It is very simple. The present government could be a part of this problem. And sometimes in problem solving, when you are not aware that you are a part of the problem, it is very difficult for you to solve that problem. A problem could arise that has been caused partially by you. If you are not aware that your actions or your omissions have caused that problem, then it is very difficult to solve that problem. That is exactly what is happening in Cameroon today. The government does not accept the tiniest responsibility in this problem. So they know that this problem has been caused by another person, and they are trying to invoke a way to solve the problem. So it is possible, like you say, that another government or another regime cannot solve the problem, that it's only this regime. We could go with the same regime for 50 years and this problem will not be solved. It is important that Cameroonians know this, that this regime too is part of this problem. I'm not saying that the problem is entirely their fault, but it takes two to tango. And if there's a problem like this and you don't ascertain your own responsibility in that problem, then you cannot solve it. If you don't ask yourself, what I have contributed to make this problem grow to the level where it is now, when you give yourself the right answers, considering the case of Cameroon, which I will not delve into again, then you can solve that problem. So I think that it is possible for another regime to come and solve this problem, and not the present regime, because they are a part of the problem, but from the beginning of this problem, they have always said that they are not a part of the problem. I just wanted us to, make that.
Yeah, but let's come back to these invitations that have been emitted and served to these separatist leaders out of the country, what do you think should be their next move? I'm talking about those who have been served invitations.
I think that their next
To
move,
get them take part in it.
I think that, you know, they are communicating enough through the social media already. And when they communicate, I know that if there is one thing that the government of Cameroon is good at, it is, you know, getting opinions left and right. I think that what they should do already, you know, is to start asking for conditions that prove that they will be secured in Cameroon. If they come here, the government is going to guarantee their security. The government is going to guarantee their freedom because their opinion counts. It is a good move, you know, to have invited them. But create the atmosphere where they will feel at home, because there is a possibility that they may come here and if they don't agree with the government will arrest them and lock them up. The government has already termed them terrorists. So behold, you are inviting terrorists to come and sit on the dialogue table. And if you hold them in that opinion, it means that after the dialogue, if you do not agree, then you, as the government that has all the powers, could arrest them and lock them up. Number two, they should, since they have been recognized, you know, as terrorists who can come and sit on a dialogue table, they should start looking for, it is not late, they should see if there is a possibility to invite external mediators, because this is about one part of a country trying to secede from the country, and it has gone military. It means that weapons have been used, people have been killed, and many people are still dying. Many people are still being affected by the crisis. Refugees are jumping into the other regions of Cameroon, and others are running into bushes still. The numbers in the bushes are increasing. Many are still running to neighboring Nigeria. So they should look for a possibility of adding at least one or two external mediators who can come and sit and make sure that this dialogue is transparent and every opinion can come on the table, so that when concessions are made, we will know that there were external mediators who did not take sides, who were impartial in this dialogue or on the dialogue table, and who will come out and present a consistent report of what happened on the dialogue table, and the resolutions will be respected by most, if not all, because there will always be dissatisfaction at certain levels. You cannot please everybody at the same time.
Okay, you cannot please everybody at the same time. Do you go with him as far as the reactions of those who have been served invitation from out of the country, termed terrorists or not? What should be the move animating them now? Should they go for a conclave, have a meeting on what to do next?
I think it's left for them to decide, because the ball has been thrown into their court.
Yeah, but what would you advise?
I think the government needs to take responsibility.
Okay.
Because I will say the government is responsible for everything that is happening right now. But the government is trying. I think the government is ready to take action. But the government has been stuck. Because I bet you, as I rightly said, from 1992 till now, the government has not been in peace, because so many things have been going wrong. And I think we need to give responsibility to the government. Because right now, if you follow up on every media channel from Facebook and everywhere, everybody is hitting hard on the government. I think it's high time we Cameroonians, we decide and say, okay, we need the government to take responsibility. And you cannot give responsibility to somebody and then you are punching the person at the same time. The government has all the power. The government has all what it takes to bring solutions to the problem. The government has all it takes to avoid everything that is happening. But now, for the government to do all this, the people need to calm down and give responsibility to the government. I think for once we can trust the government and then tell them everybody needs to be humble. The government needs to be humble. Cameroonians needs to be humble.
Okay, since we are looking at the possibility or asking the question whether it's time to get back to the reconstruction process of the foundation of Cameroon, my question to you is, Cameroon is at crossroads as we speak. conflicts in the north with Boko Haram, things, socio-political crisis almost in all the regions in the west, littoral center, and the Anglophone crisis in the northwest and southwest region. Where did Cameroon go wrong?
Where did Cameroon go wrong? I think, you know, you have to give the responsibilities according to the positions of the, you know, of the society that is called Cameroon.
Yeah.
Number one, we have had a problem of leadership in this country from the very beginning. There has been a problem of leadership. The leadership has been so, how do I put it, relaxed on many issues. Health, education, the well-being of the people, you know, construction of the country. We have had many beautiful promises that have not been executed. That is leadership. You know, talking about top leadership, I remember I read the communal liberalism of the current president of the Republic of Cameroon, and most of the pillars, you know, on which that communal liberalism was built, that he promised, you know, to transform the society of Cameroon, most of those pillars have not been erected yet, or they are still lagging far behind the proportion that he promised to the Cameroonian people. Take rigor and moralization. Public finance is a scandal. It's a scandalous area. There is still a lot of embezzlement going on despite the
what you are saying is what we live every day, but I want us to go back to the foundation. Where did we miss the foundation? I'm
going, you know, from one step to the other. Number two, the civil society that I am a part of, that you are a part of, and other civil society organizations have not done their homework very well. You know, we have missed the point entirely because we thought that it was only the duty of the government to construct, and so we stayed behind, or we retracted into the role of detractor, always trying to point out what the government is not doing well or what the government has done, you know, in excess. But we forgot to also play our role as people who could build a society. This is just being objective. Number three, the Cameroonian man, the common man.
Yeah, but well, all these things you are citing, I want us to go back to the foundation of Cameroon.
The foundation, that's the
building. Cameroon, yes, is Cameroon suffering because of its colonial past?
Can I come in a little, please? Can I come in, if you have permission?
You've been talking for long.
No, I'll just briefly touch that point. I didn't know that was the direction. I mean,
no, we are talking about the foundation
of Cameroon.
Yeah.
That's true. You know, built on the colonial past. I am sure that Cameroon is suffering from its colonial past, but most of the suffering is not caused only by the colonial masters. It's caused by us, Cameroon, by the way we conceive Cameroon to be, because. Look at the history of Cameroon from 1961. I just want to begin from 1961.
Yeah.
Two different entities decided to come and stay together with rules binding that marriage. And today, all the rules have been flawed. All the rules have been sidelined. And we have some kind of a mixture that doesn't resemble the beginning, the foundation itself of this country in 1961. I think that is the primordial problem of Cameroon as we speak. Exclude Boko Haram. This is about the crisis in the northwest and the southwest region.
Yeah.
I think that is the genesis of the problem in the northwest and southwest regions, which, if not properly considered and, you know, concrete solutions ushered to solve that problem, then the problem is not going to, I mean, we're still going to be in the same pot of soup.
Mr. Takusi, so at the time of the formation of what we know today as Cameroon, where did the founding fathers falter?
Well, I think a lot of errors were made. And I, for one, I wouldn't like to be going back to those to the past and everything.
To the errors, yeah.
But I think the main thing now is the solution. We have to talk about the present right now, because if you are talking from 1961, a lot of time have passed. People have died. I'm not talking about people who have died in the course of this fight. I mean, our fathers, our grandfathers, most of them have died, and they have lived in the problem. So why can't we ask our problem? From the time this whole thing started till now, what happened?
2016.
No, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about from the foundation, as you said.
Okay, yes.
Because like when we're talking about the foundation, we are talking about 1961.
Yeah.
But before 1961, Cameroon was existing. We were still existing. People were existing. People lived before then. They got into that time, and they have been living through till now.
Yeah, but part of Cameroon at the time is found in Gabon, a part in Central African Republic, a part in Nigeria. Cameroon as it is today is not the German Cameroon as you want us to believe.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I said from 1961 till now, a lot of things have happened. Wrongs, goods. But I think right now it's not the time. If we are looking for solution, and if we say Cameroon is peaceful and want to remain peaceful, I think we shouldn't go back. Because going back the way people are putting is going to cause more problems and more disorder. But I think we cannot say we will not go back. We have to. But if we want a solution, I think we know the solution.
I think we also need to understand where we faltered so that we don't make errors, especially as we move on to the national dialogue, because what are we going to discuss if not to see where we faltered? Don't you think that the fact that the UPC's vision for Cameroon was ignored, because the UPC wanted a united Cameroon before independence?
Well, I think that is a very pertinent point. But, you know, the UPC had already been marked as a terrorist organization. And not, no, I mean, even the French colonial forces in Cameroon at that period, before independence, had been hunting down the UPC, you know, militants, and they were coined as terrorists. I think that if that vision of Cameroon was respected, then Cameroon will not be in this quagmire that we find ourselves today, because the UPC said for Cameroon to be independent, both the President South Cameroon and even Northern Cameroon, they were claiming even Northern Cameroon that joined Nigeria, that we should all unite with the former East Cameroon, then acquire our independence as one country, which was not respected by France because of political reasons, because they wanted to, how do I put it, they wanted the former East Cameroon, it was their design for the former East Cameroon to assimilate the former West Cameroon. So this plan by UPC was thwarted. They did not even give a second thought to it. Because had we united at that time as you know, one country before independence, I'm sure that lots of, you know, things would have been put in place so that where we find ourselves today, we would have corrected those mistakes long in the past. But like my co-panelist said, it is true we have to look at the solution and not the, you know, concentrate only on the problem where it started. We cannot do that if we don't revisit, I mean, even briefly, we cannot do that if we don't revisit the history of the country and trace out where this problem actually started. When we get that, then we usher in now the position for people to give, you know, opinions. And I think this is a point that we have to make, which floors the present dialogue that the government of Cameroon is organizing. The president said in his speech, the president of the Republic said in his speech that this dialogue is going to take place within the context of the constitution, which provides that Cameroon is a unitary and decentralized state. So there's going to be every move to strengthen and fortify decentralization. Now, this is my own response. This is decentralization that has not been fortified in Cameroon for the past 22 years. Is it today that they're going to put in place, you know, a mechanism to fortify the decentralization? And are they taking into opinion, are they taking into consideration the opinion of the many Cameroonians, including Northwesterners and Southwesterners, and Cameroonians of the opposition, that they want a federated Cameroon?
Okay, but that you want a federated Cameroon, since you are more of the solution-oriented platform on this panel. The consultations have been going on. Yesterday, Barrister Bobala was received. We saw the likes of Barrister Keremuna. The journalists were equally invited. Today, the traditional authorities have been invited. What do you think they are going to shape from what has been planned already?
Well, as I always say, I think the government is aware. more than any other Cameroonian, the problems that we are facing, the errors that they have made. And I think the government can solve the problem. But if I look into the situation, I think there's one major problem the government is facing. And if the government can get hold of that, I think the problem is solved. If Cameroonians can give the government a chance, because I don't think we have given the government a chance. From 1992 till now, I think every Cameroonian has been disgruntled. Even some of the people who have been in government positions, they are not happy. And the government is trying to buy the people in the wrong way.
Yeah, but what do you mean when you say the government has not been given a chance? How?
Okay, like if you follow most debates,
yeah, on
the TV on the television, you realize that everybody keeps hitting hard
on the government.
On the government,
is it not?
Everybody keep hitting hard, and now the government is stuck. The government, whatever the government says, it's like it's not important. It's like everybody is fed up. But I think I can give an example. Let's say all of us here we are men. Let's say in a family home where the father keeps beating on the mother every time, and then one day the children gets up and say and hit hard on their father, and their father like in dismay, is shocked. Maybe he has an injury. Then it becomes a total problem in the house where nobody wants to understand. And then maybe the family, maybe the father's brothers and other people come now for a solution. Now, what do we expect in that solution? Let's say a dialogue. We expect that there will be an argument. Let's say if the father is there, other people are there to maybe to come into agreement. And then the children, they go now and recognize the father that he is the man of the house. And they are very sorry for their action, for what they did. They're acknowledging that what they did to him, though he has been wrong from the onset, I think he will be ashamed. And he is going to, from that day, I think no matter how evil he is, he's going to react. He's going to react. He's going to be ashamed. I think we need to make the government to be ashamed by giving him an opportunity. We don't need to go and fight and force him. We need to tell him that this is what we want. We need to be humble. The government needs to be humble. But if we think we can go on the government and say, this is what we want, the government has every mechanism, every trick to fight. But I think at one point we can decide and say, okay, let's be humble. Let's go to the government. Let's tell them that, okay, because there is no reason why we should be repeating things over and over. People have been singing.
Isn't it also because since the early 90s, things have been happening, many people have expected the government to change either the electoral code, to change the way corruption is being monitored in the country, to do many other things, and the government over the decades have not changed.
Okay, I think when we are talking about the government, we are talking about the people, especially those who are working under the government. I think the problem has been not only from the direct, because when we are talking about the government each time, people keep looking at
President
Pobia, people look at the governors, at the SDOs, but individually, every Cameroonian has a problem.
Okay.
I think, firstly, Cameroonians are not patriotic. Cameroonians will want to look at the little fault and expand it.
Of the other person.
Of anything that is happening. So I think we need to be patriotic at one point. And I will also add, okay, like for example, we can be here, we are discussing. So many Cameroonians will be trying to look at maybe grammatical errors that maybe the people are making. They look at the way people dress, and they keep giving flimsy complaints which are not very necessary, leaving the substance and then chasing the shadow. So I think Cameroonians first need to be very patriotic. You need to first of all love your country, no matter the way it is, no matter the situation. We need to first of all love the country and then try to put in the best we can.
Okay, put in the best we can. I want with you stay with reconstructing the foundation. Do you think there is need to reconstruct our history when you look at what happened in the 1960, 61, 72, and 84? Is there need to review that history?
There's absolute need to review the history of Cameroon. That Cameroonians, you know, of the English-speaking parts and our government, let me use the word government intentionally, and the government of this country need to sit down and revisit the history of this country to ascertain exactly where the problem of this country is coming from, especially as far as the English-speaking regions of this country are concerned. So there has been, I want to answer a little, you know, in relation to what I'm saying. I want to answer Mr. Takusi.
Yeah.
Mr. Takusi, you know, he has spoken brilliantly, but there's one thing that I think we should highlight for the understanding of Cameroonians. The government of Cameroon constitutes everybody, every Cameroonian, but there is the responsibility to manage the country that falls in the hands of the administration of this country that is headed by the President of the Republic. Now, when Cameroon doesn't go well, because it is their responsibility to... one American senator who was presidential candidate said something of leadership which I will never forget. He says, leadership is about taking responsibility and not making excuses. So if things go wrong, it is the place of the Cameroonian people who are supposed to have voted or who are supposed to have chosen the people who are leading them now. It is the place for those people to be accountable. They should be held accountable on the issues that are going wrong in the country. And Mr. Takusi, I need us to understand that there is a problem in this country, and this problem has demonstrated itself in so many other countries. When a leadership has stayed for so long, most of the leaderships, at one time, because they are ebbing out, the energy is ebbing out, lots of things go wrong. It is the absolute right of Cameroonians to aspire for new leadership, and that should be regular, because people come with different visions.
Yeah,
now, having said that, I delve now into this thing proper. The history of this country is not even being taught in many schools. The story of the union between the English-speaking part of Cameroon, that's former West Cameroon or Southern Cameroon, and the French-speaking part of Cameroon, former East Cameroon, is not taught in schools. Many French-speaking Cameroonians do not know that story. And what is the effect of that? It causes bias when they hear that Cameroonians in the English-speaking regions are, you know, fighting to secede. They do not understand because the facts of this history have not been made available to them. I think it is time we review this history. I think it is time we establish trust amongst ourselves. And that trust must be made in such a way that every Cameroonian who is growing and every Cameroonian who is existing now should understand the history that brought these two entities together and the rules of engagement, or the rules that were supposed to prevail as these two entities lived together till this day. And to get to trace the root cause of this crisis as being that trust was violated. Trust was breached because two people agreed and one person single-handedly breached that agreement. And this is where we are today. If this history is taught sufficiently to Cameroonians of both the English-speaking and the French-speaking regions of this country, I think it will create a little more sympathy than the Anglophones already have. Because there is a serious problem of marginalization that even the President of the Republic denied. He says that I have given you people the position of prime ministers.
Okay, let me take two messages and then we move over to... Good evening, everyone. The Ambazonians in the diaspora are not to be invited to the dialogue. They are a body of the dialogue, okay? You did not tell us where you're writing from. Mr. Takusi, I've reasoned with you. You have really suffered in the hands of Amba Nkrumah. He says,
sorry about that.
We need freedom from these terrorists. The only solution is this upcoming dialogue, and I support it 100%. Ngo Veron, writing from Kumba. I think the government knows what they are doing. They know that these guys will not attend the dialogue because there is no guarantee to their security. The government only wants the international community to know that they were invited and they refused to come. This is a trap. The government called the activist terrorists. If they come to Cameroon, the government will arrest them in the name of terrorists. Let the government give them guarantee to their safety when they are in Cameroon. Fondem is writing from K-Town also. We don't know. Maybe those guarantees have been given. As long as there is tyranny, all efforts made by the civil society to help in the nation building are frustrated because the activism of the civil society exposes the ills of the government. Okay, we move over to the newsroom to follow the news with Peldrin Blanche.
Higher Institute of Professional Studies is offering a platform for zealous young persons to procure an education of reputable standards to fit into today's competitive job market. With effective bilingual education and 22 years of experience, Access HIPS offers HND, bachelor and master's programs in management, legal affairs, shipping, logistics and transport management, accountancy, and a lot more. Admissions are currently going on, and you can contact the numbers 652-971-020 or 679-441-072. Access HIPS, creating and molding professionals for quality job.
Being one of more than 200 majors of HIPMAT, I am proud of my success. It all began at HIPMAT.
I am a CEO. I coach and lead a team of salespeople. I don't hesitate to tell them the vision was planted and molded by HIPMAT.
Today, I stand on a pedestal of experienced and committed lecturers. The foundation was laid by HIPMAT.
For over a decade, HIPMAT's credibility and ministerial recognition have trained more than 15,000 professionals in business management and engineering from HND to BTech, MBA, and what have you. With an outstanding partnership with the University of Bamenda for BTech and MBA programs, our undoubted commitment to your show's success is a reflection of the future you painted. The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMAT, a university for professionals.
Seeking a career in agriculture? Consider St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture, where students can build their interest in various farming systems by tailoring their study of agriculture to production, processing, and marketing agribusinesses, making them job providers and not seekers. St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture offers relevant practical education developed and delivered by experts and teachers who believe in teaching by demonstration. St. Louis Complex also offers through its Higher Institute of Medical Studies professional HND in nursing, midwifery, physiotherapy, pharmacy technology, medical lab sciences, dental therapy, radiology, and ultrasonography. We are located at Bonaberin Double opposite Nestle. Contact us on 678-435-138 or 677-764-674.
Good evening and welcome to the 7:45 Prime News on My Media Prime. Genda Pelgin Blanche King is my name. On our top stories, key separatist leaders in the diaspora have been invited for the planned national dialogue by the Prime Minister, head of government, on instructions of the head of state. Still about the planned dialogue, Dr. George Ewane has been appointed spokesman of the major national dialogue. Human rights defenders for peace have tabled a memorandum prelude to the national dialogue and also expressed concerns centered on the creation of an inclusive government for every Cameroonian. Those were our headlines. Now the news in full. The Association of Human Rights Defenders for Persons Living with Disabilities organized a press conference today, during which they made public a memorandum relating to the national dialogue. They expressed concerns centered on the creation of an inclusive government for every Cameroonian. Staff Lady Eileen Sama was present and now reports.
The press conference organized by Anna Jekam brought together persons living with disabilities from all 10 regions of Cameroon to make a press statement relating to the national dialogue expected to be held in the days ahead in the capital city of Yaoundé. Members of ANAJECAM, who fall under the national platform of organizations for the promotion of the inclusion of persons with disabilities in Cameroon, have raised pertinent issues regarding their well-being, standard of living, and educational constraints retarding them from growing as Cameroonian citizens. They voiced numerous worries, saying that the disabled are the most affected persons in the current Anglophone crisis that is causing negative effects on them. They called for peace to return unanimously in the country. They unanimously called for peace to return in the country. The president of the Association of Young Persons Living with Disabilities Cameroon, Jean-Pierre Foba, during the press conference pointed issues of isolation and abandonment by the Cameroon government, saying handicapped persons need to be included in national activities.
When the Prime Minister, Chief of Government received of us yesterday, the participation of the presence of persons with disabilities in
The members of the National Platform of Organizations for the Promotion of Persons Living with Disabilities have taken some measures tabled to the head of government, Prime Minister Chief Dr. Dion Gute, stating the importance of their participation at the national dialogue called by His Excellency President Paul Biya. Key issues cited in the memorandum include the inclusion of at least 2 disabled persons at the municipal level, 5 representatives of persons living with disabilities at the regional level, at least 10 senators from representatives of persons living with disabilities at the upper house of parliament, and 10 representatives from the lower house of parliament, amongst many other issues. The event took place at the Multifunctional Center at New Bell in Douala, Littoral region.
The National Council of Traditional Rulers of Cameroon have submitted their proposal to the Prime Minister, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gute. Lasha Kinsley has details of the story.
As pre-consultative talks ahead of the Grand National Dialogue called by President Paul Biya to resolve the Anglophone crisis continues at the Star Building, the National Council of Traditional Rulers of Cameroon, headed by Alim Hayatu, Lamido of Garoua, has submitted their proposals to the Prime Minister, who happens to be a chief and member of the council.
Premier ministre, chef de gouvernement, nous a rappelé notre rôle, cette fonction de ramener la paix de cœur, d'espoir, de conciliation, de stabilité du Cameroun.
Persons living with disabilities, Judicial and the Medical Corps equally went consulting with the PM this 25th day of September 2019.
We persons with disabilities think that it's indispensable for us to be part of all the consultations and all the meetings and all the debates related to national dialogue, because persons with disabilities represent more than 15% of persons living in the Cameroonian society, and this number is estimated to be on the rise with everything that we know happening in the Grand North, with Boko Haram, and also with the crisis in the northwest and the southwest regions of Cameroon.
Nous avons prévu dans le cadre de la reconstruction proposer à Monsieur le Premier ministre des éléments pour éviter à l'avenir de ce type de crise.
Yesterday was the turn of human rights lawyer Felix Agbo-Bala.
We talked about the inclusiveness of the dialogue, that it was necessary for each and every one who was concerned in one way or the other to be represented, whether you're a separatist or whoever. If you are invited, you should come. We also talked about the fact that the gross and systematic human rights violations that have been committed by both parties, there should be a measure that accountability is brought into action, because we don't want a situation where such a thing will happen again in this country. We equally talked about the issue of amnesty, taking into consideration the fact that it might be too little too late to have amnesty for the time being.
Controversial political figure Banda Kani was also amongst those received at the Star Building by the Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Diongute to submit his proposal on ways of resolving the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon. Banda Kani is noted for having vehemently opposed any such thing as dialogue on the Anglophone crisis, insisting that military option was the only way out of solving the Anglophone crisis.
Some key diaspora separatist leaders have been invited for the national dialogue by the Prime Minister on the instruction of His Excellency President Paul Biya, the head of state, and the key leaders like Mark Barretta, Samuel Ekomisako, Akwanga Ebenezer, Chris Anu, Bo Hebert, Ayabacho Lucas, amongst others, have been called to be part of the dialogue process, which will take place from the 30th of September till the 4th of October. And to something else, in a bid to address global challenges faced by African universities, research and training committees have been created at the University of Yaoundé too. The rector of the institution, Professor Adolphe Che Minke, and his collaborators recently installed the committees at the University of Yaoundé 2 campus. The committee in charge of undergraduate and graduate training programs, as well as the committee in charge of research strategic documents, were urged to adapt programs to the benefit of students. Emerencia Awong reports from Yaoundé.
Research and development is the only way through which African universities can emerge and meet global challenges. It reads in this light that special research and training committees have been created at the University of Yaoundé too. The rector of the institution, Professor Adolphe Che Minke, and his collaborators converged on campus to install a committee in charge of undergraduate and postgraduate training programs, as well as the committee in charge of the elaboration of research strategic documents. Created September 2019, these committees have unique objectives.
Of putting in place these two committees is to give the contents to the vision of the rector who wants the University of Yaoundé 2 to be Technopole des Sciences Sociales. That means that University of Yaoundé 2 must have a program of formation to level 1 to master 1 and master 2 research and even in PhD. And University of Yaoundé 2 must also have a specific document under research to address the contemporary problematic and to help the government and the public policy how to bring our country in this vision of the head of state, which is Emergence du Cameroun en 2035.
During the installation ceremony, the Director of Academic Affairs, Professor Njono Tini, says committee members are expected to elaborate research and training documents that will benefit students.
First, the student will know what is their program and they can even choose their study and to know how to study law, how to study political science, how to study economics and management. The students must also know what about credit, what about the content of the program, and we will stop this kind of discussion concerning how many credits, how many hours, how many tutorials, and this. So you have full information about our program.
It is worth noting that each committee constitutes a president, vice, secretary general, as well as other members.
We move over to the southwest region of Cameroon. The palm oil plantation is now operational after several months of inactivity due to the armed conflict in the southwest region of Cameroon. The mill section went operational recently in Mundemba under the supervision of its general manager, who also chaired the CPDM rally and later back to school campaign in the town of Mundemba. Tamfu Sidwan Dimbie has details of this story.
The Pamo Plantation PLC goes operational after a period of inactivity following the armed conflict in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. Machines are on in this factory in Mundemba, Ndian Division, southwest region of Cameroon. This is due to government's effort to support the General Manager, Chief Mekanya Charles Okon, who was in Mundemba on the 11th of September 2019 to supervise finishing touches at the mill before it went fully operational on the 12th. According to the people of Mundemba, the operation of the mill will go a long way to boost economic activities as both workers and small farm holders will be able to generate revenue through salaries and sales of palm produce to the company, which will equally help parents to send their children to school. However, it should be noted that on the 15th of September 2019, the town of Mundemba played host to the Ndian 1 section conference of the CPDM party, which brought together thousands of party militants who converged at the Mundemba Council Hall to brainstorm on the state of the party in the division and to contribute to peace building in the country, with strategies put in place to support the head of state. On the 15th of September 2019, Chief Mekanya Charles Okon extended his benevolence towards hundreds of pupils and students as he assisted them during the back-to-school period. The children received various assistance ranging from school bags, books, pens, rulers, just to name a few. It is worth noting that the PAMO GM and the section president of Ndian has also recruited a number of teachers to teach in the schools found within the plantation, while waiting for some teachers to resume duty as soon as possible. It is on this light that pupils and students in schools in the plantation have equally joined others nationwide to resume the 2019-2020 academic year.
Tamfu Sidwan Dimbie ending that report. In developing news, workers of the Cameroon Development Corporation, CDC, have been called for a meeting at the headquarters in Limbe to discuss work-related issues, amongst others. Details of this on a subsequent edition of Prime News on My Major Prime. It is on this note that we end today's edition of the news on My Major Prime. But before we go, a reminder of our top stories. Key separatist leaders in the diaspora have been invited for the planned national dialogue by the Prime Minister, head of government, on instruction of the head of state. Human rights defenders for peace have tabled a memorandum prelude to the national dialogue and also expressed concerns centered on the creation of an inclusive government for every Cameroonian. The news was produced by Ewane Eli, coordinated by Lasha Kingsley. My name is Genda Pelgin Blanche King. Thanks for watching. Join us tomorrow at 7:45 for another edition of Prime News on My Major Prime. Stay tuned. Prime Hour continues with Kum Leonard and his panelists. Good night.
Being one of more than 200 majors of HIPMAT, I am proud of my success. It all began at HIPMAT.
I am a CEO. I coach and lead a team of salespeople. I don't hesitate to tell them the vision was planted and molded by HIPMAT.
Today, I stand on a pedestal of experienced and committed lecturers. The foundation was laid by HIPMAT.
For over a decade, HIPMAT's credibility and ministerial recognition have trained more than 15,000 professionals in business management and engineering from HND to BTech, MBA, and what have you. With an outstanding partnership with the University of Bamenda for BTech and MBA programs, our undoubted commitment to your show's success is a reflection of the future you painted. The Higher Institute of Business Management and Technology, HIPMET, a university for professionals.
Seeking a career in agriculture? Consider St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture, where students can build their interest in various farming systems by tailoring their study of agriculture to production, processing, and marketing agribusinesses, making them job providers and not seekers. St. Louis Higher Institute of Agriculture offers relevant practical education developed and delivered by experts and teachers who believe in teaching by demonstration. St. Louis Complex also offers through its Higher Institute of Medical Studies professional HND in nursing, midwifery, physiotherapy, pharmacy technology, medical lab sciences, dental therapy, radiology, and ultrasonography. We are located at Bonaberry Double opposite Nestle. Contact us on 678-435-138 or 677-764-674. Access HIPS, Higher Institute of Professional Studies, is offering a platform for zealous young persons to procure an education of reputable standards to fit into today's competitive job market. With effective bilingual education and 22 years of experience, Access HIPS offers HND, bachelor and master's programs in management, legal affairs, shipping, logistics and transport management, accountancy, and a lot more. Admissions are currently going on, and you can contact the numbers 652-971-020 or 679-441-072. Access HIPS, creating and molding professionals for quality job.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime Hour on My Media Prime. We have just been joined by Salomon Bias. He is a militant of the CRM movement. Bonsoir et bienvenue.
Bonsoir Léonard Koum, bonsoir Monsieur Wallan, bonsoir à mon copanéliste d'en face. C'est un honneur pour moi de me retrouver une fois de plus sur ce plateau. Je voudrais profiter de la prise de parole que vous me donnez pour m'excuser auprès de nombreux téléspectateurs dont j'ai, n'est-ce pas, le devoir de servir au quotidien, du retard que j'ai accusé, pratiquement près d'1 heure de temps. Je sais qu'ils sont tellement scotchés et qu'ils ont besoin, chaque fois qu'on essaie d'épiloguer sur des sujets, c'est pour ça que je vais m'incliner aujourd'hui, mais néanmoins, pour le peu de temps qui me reste, je vais m'atteler à leur rendre service.
Oui, puisque les consultations sont en train d'être faites à Yaoundé, vous avez certainement vu les invitations qui ont été émises à l'endroit des leaders séparatistes, les invitant de venir. C'est une bonne nouvelle, non? Oui,
nous avons, avant tout propos, il faudrait que j'essaye d'apporter, n'est-ce pas, quelques précisions. Nous avons depuis pratiquement 3 ans appelé à ce qui est ce dialogue. Aujourd'hui, avec les nombreux appels que nous avons faits, nous les hommes politiques, ceux de la société civile et beaucoup plus l'opinion internationale et la population anglophone qui est concernée en partie, n'est-ce pas, par ce problème qui mine la société camerounaise, il apparaît aujourd'hui comme si c'est le gouvernement de M. Biya pris de façon unilatérale qui a décidé qu'il y ait dialogue. Non. On ne va pas leur donner cette fleur parce que cette initiative n'a pas dépendu d'eux. C'est une initiative qui dépend des nombreux appels et de la pression que nous avons mis parce que le dialogue, selon nous, était la seule solution à la résolution de ce problème. Mais maintenant que vous me dites qu'il y a eu des appels aux séparatistes pour que tous se joignent sur la table, c'est pour ça que nous avons toujours parlé d'un dialogue inclusif, sincère et objectif. Mais maintenant, à cet appel-là, qu'est-ce qu'on associe? Est-ce qu'on leur donne la garantie de ce qu'une fois arrivés au Cameroun, ils ne vont pas être victimes de quelque représailles que ce soit? Moi, c'est la question que je me pose. Parce que une chose est d'appeler, l'autre chose est de pouvoir donner la garantie à celui-là qu'on appelle. Parce que vous savez aujourd'hui que l'un des leaders, ou alors quelques leaders de ces sécessionnistes, comme on les appelle, en l'occurrence Ayoub Tabé et autres, ont été condamnés à des peines privatives de liberté. Nous ne sommes pas ignorants. Est-ce que ceux-là qu'on appelle aujourd'hui à la table de négociation ne subiront pas le même sort? C'est pour ça qu'il était judicieux et même très opportun que ce dialogue puisse se tenir sur un terrain neutre pour garantir à tous ceux-là qui viendraient et qui pourraient avoir à quelque mesure que ce soit une épée de Damoclès qui plane sur leur tête l'assurance de ce qu'ils ne vont rien avoir de négatif. Maintenant, est-ce que cet appel qui a été lancé est sincère? Comment ces leaders séparatistes vont-ils réagir? Est-ce qu'ils ont même déjà réagi? Je ne sais pas encore, je n'ai pas encore eu l'information. Mais je pense que si cet appel est sincère, que c'est crédible et qu'il y a un ancrage qui permet en sorte que ceux qui y viennent ne puissent pas risquer quelques représailles que ce soit de la part de ce régime de Yaoundé qui a toujours montré qu'il n'a pas toujours respecté ses promesses, alors je pense que c'est quelque chose qui serait apprécié de tout le monde.
Okay, you read the resignation letters of both Muna and Foncha from the CPDM, where they were warning that some of the reasons for which they got into the union have not been respected, and that if care was not taken, things were going to be very difficult in the future. Are we living the consequences of not respecting the call and warnings of the founding fathers of Cameroon as we have today?
That is very exact. You know, there has been some arrogance that has governed this union since the country was formed in 1961. I keep on going to that date, 1961, because that is when both entities decided to come together. And unfortunately, you know, as analysts, we are blaming Muna, although they did their part, but we are blaming them for being too, I don't want to say weak, but you know, they gave a lot of concessions and they were taken for granted. Because if they had been really, really hard at that negotiation table, especially in Fumban, I am sure that the regime at that time would have taken things a little more seriously. But Ahijo just found his way around Muna and Foncha as if they hadn't an opinion. They came with a pre-prepared constitution, federal constitution. The Southern Cameroon's delegation was consulted only for a few days. They did not have the time, you know, to critically, you know, examine the constitution and give an opinion. So all of those things are, you know, they're demonstrating themselves today. Yes, Muna resigned, Foncha especially. Foncha wants the Cameroon government and said that these injustices that have been committed on the Anglophone people will bounce back in a violent manner. And that is exactly what is happening today. And, you know, the arrogance still continues because everybody knows, Mr. or, you know, the opposite panelist said something that the government of Cameroon knows the solution to this crisis. To me, we are putting the chariot before the horse. They're talking about decentralization. That is never going to solve the problem of the Anglophone crisis. I think that before the dialogue ever took place, the dialogue, to me, in my own humble opinion, the dialogue would have been to, you know, bring forth a Truth and Reconciliation Committee, because a lot of atrocities have been committed in the context of this crisis by both camps. Many people have died. Many people have lost property. People have been victimized. That is where the dialogue would have taken place. the government of Cameroon would have worked with its National Assembly and other institutions of this country to decree a kind of federation that looks like what obtained in 1962. And then from there, they do consultative talks on how to make this federation more contextual to the realities of the Cameroonian people. I think if decentralization was really contextual, decentralization would have been implemented in 1996 after the adoption of the new constitution. But for 22 years, they have not implemented decentralization. Please excuse me. We have not been able to implement decentralization because I think that the Cameroonian man does not identify himself in that decentralization. Power will not still reach the person at that level. It is a kind of masquerade, that was forwarded to the Cameroonians as far back as the advent of democracy. When Cameroonians went into democratic elections, mayors were elected. What did the government do? The government appointed government delegates who became super mayors, and most of these government delegates were mayors who had lost elections.
We are going to come to that, but I wanted you to focus that since we are looking at the foundation, how to fix the foundation, what should be done with respect to the letters that were given by Foncha and Muna?
Unfortunately, we can only make analysis because the consequences are already there.
Yeah.
The government was arrogant, sidelined those letters, did not take any of the points into consideration, and this is where we find ourselves today. So we have to go back. The people have to go back and look at the consequences, trace where those issues came from, and solve it at the root cause. Otherwise, we'll keep on dancing the Bafia dance, going one step forward and two steps backward.
Now, the traditional rulers were received today. What can the traditional rulers bring to the negotiating table or the dialogue table in Yaoundé?
I think generally the traditional rulers are the people that are directly linked with the population,
okay,
with the common people especially. Mm-hmm. And I think if the traditional rulers needs to be part of that dialogue, then they need to go back to their respective areas and then try to talk to the people, get their own solution to the problem before going back on the dialogue table. But as I rightly said, I don't look at the dialogue. I don't want to look at it as a dialogue, because looking at it at the point of a dialogue is going to cause more problem at the end. Because from the grievances and the grudges every Cameroonian is carrying, is going to be a whole hell of arguments, and I don't think we are going to get into any solution. But if we have to identify ourselves, because every Cameroonian has a problem. If you take, for example, when contracts are being awarded, a contract has been awarded, let's say 17 million francs to build 2 classrooms. But before the contractor goes to that job, he's left with less than 10 million francs to do that job, meaning that the other money has gone into the different respective head of different departments regarding that contract, meaning that every Cameroonian has a problem. We need to start taking responsibilities ourselves and make sure that when we are giving responsibility, we should instead guide the person and make sure that the right quarter of what has been given should be used for the right purpose.
Yeah, you said the traditional rulers who were consulted today are directly linked with the people on ground, but we must also acknowledge the fact that some of them have fled. They are no longer in touch. Most of them no longer live in their villages.
Yes, but I think there is a problem now. The boys on the ground are not happy. Mm-hmm. And one of their greatest problems are their chiefs, who are like their direct leaders. They are not happy because they believe the leaders have taken side with the government. But I will say this: in every government or in every country, there is a government, irrespective of ills and problems within the country. But I think it would have been very difficult. The chiefs would have been in a very tight position to take sides with the boys on the ground. But I think with the advent of this dialogue, we can still transform the dialogue into something else. by if the boys can, because there are people among us who are directly close to those boys. Those boys are not mad. Those boys are more reasonable than some of us seated here. I've had an encounter with the boys on my way to Kumba. I've had an encounter with them. And they took care of I had a breakdown with my car. I left my car with them. I went to Kumba that night. I came back the next day. And they assisted. I had a long chat with them. And I didn't believe. You know, so many people are not on ground zero, but they have different thoughts. They spoil the minds of everybody. People have traveled from abroad. They have come right to Kumba. But people keep giving the impression that Kumba is a no-go area. Maybe other areas on ground zeros are no-go areas. But I bet you people keep coming every day. But the impression people are giving is part of the problem we are facing. Because the boys are ready to entertain. The boys are ready to talk. But because of the information gotten from us, that's the commoners, I think we are more the cause of this problem. We are worse than those boys in the forest. Because we keep giving, you know, we hate speeches. People go on social media and people say what they don't know. They transmit messages. And those boys are not constantly on the media. But once they get bad news goes very fast. So that is what they get. So with that now, it's very difficult for them to understand. So that is why at times they grow wild. They do whatever they are doing. But amongst them, there are still very reasonable guys among them. That the same people among us can go back to those boys.
Are you saying that traditional rulers should go back to them because the governor of the Southwest region, His Excellency Bernard Okala-Bilai, actually pleaded with the chiefs to go and see their children and ask them to come to the dialogue table? Can they do the job? The chiefs need to go and they can do the job. And they need the people on the ground because in those villages, in those cities, on ground zeros, there are people there. There are people there, and those people are communicating with the boys. The boys are not fools. The boys are not mad. So people need to calm down. We all have problems. We all have problems. One problem the government is having is that the government has the power. And they feel like the people want to grab power away from them automatically. But there's always a way you can take power from somebody. First thing, I think every Cameroonian needs to be humble. We talk anyhow. We shout. Because there's hierarchy. Even in heaven, there's hierarchy. So we have to, first of all, put that in our mind. And we have to respect the hierarchy of the nation. And the government needs to understand that the people are not happy. The government needs to calm down. Inviting the leaders in the diaspora is for me, it's not a solution to the problem. The government has acknowledged the problem, yes, but people are not very sure. People are not confident. The government needs to assure the people. But for the government, for the people to get this assurance, they need to calm down and give the government a chance. Because if you give the government a chance and tell the government, yes, you have been doing wrong for the past 30 or for the past 35 years, things have not been going wrong. We have been fighting. As I rightly said, from 1992 till now, to 2016, Cameroon was in peace, but the government was not in peace. And the population has been in pieces because nobody has been happy. But now, if we decide to calm down and say, okay, yes, government, you are the highest power. You can crush us. You can kill everybody. But now, we are ready to listen. We are ready to give you the lead to make the change. Because I believe that if power is transmitted to another person in this country in the way we want to do it, it's not going to be easy for the person. Because one, the government in place has loyalty from the military. All the generals in place were put by the current head of state. And they are answerable to him. So if we have to do this by force, then it means we are going to put the country in a total mess. Okay. But if we decide to be humble, to give the government the responsibility that they need, the responsibility that they have to do for the people, then I think there will be a solution in this dialogue. But if we think we have to go on this dialogue table and keep challenging the government, keep telling the government they have been doing this, they have been doing this, we all know the problems. It
It has been repeated over and over. So there is no need going to that dialogue table and start bringing problems that the government knows.
Okay.
Let the solution be made. Let the solution be put in place.
On regarde sur la fondation de la création de la nation Cameroun. J'ai demandé ça, mais vous êtes quelqu'un qui maîtrise un peu mieux l'UPC. Vous croyez qu'on a failli à ne pas respecter ce que l'UPC a voulu faire avant l'indépendance?
Mais bien sûr qu'on a failli. Parce qu'en réalité, quand j'écoute mon copanéliste s'exprimer, j'ai l'impression qu'il n'a pas vraiment...
Il vit à Kumba.
Je suis tout à fait d'accord. Il vit dans les faits de la crise.
Il a été kidnappé à
Je suis tout à fait d'accord. Il vit dans les faits de la crise. Il vit la crise. Il connaît les séquelles de la crise. Mais maintenant, parler de l'État, c'est autre chose. Parce que l'État est institutionnel. L'État est scientifique. C'est une donnée qu'on doit connaître dans son fondement. Parce que si on ne comprend pas les méandres de l'État, et qu'on ne comprend pas l'association qu'il puisse avoir entre l'État et la nation, on se plante. Parce que j'ai l'impression que lui, il assujettit le pouvoir du peuple à l'État. Non, mon frère. Permets-moi d'éclairer un peu ça. Parce qu'en fait, dans toutes les théories de sciences politiques au monde, pris au hasard, pour qu'on parle d'État, il faut qu'il y ait un contrat entre le peuple qui fonde la nation, de par l'histoire, de par le vécu, et l'institution dont le peuple décide de confier la charge, et qui n'est qu'un mandataire qui est au service du peuple. L'État est au service du peuple, et non le contraire. Donc, pour répondre à votre question, oui, l'UPC et le KNDP, à l'époque, voulaient qu'on aille à l'unification, du moins à la réunification, avant d'aller à l'indépendance. Et Oumniobé avait très bien fait de mentionner que si on va à l'indépendance, avant la réunification, alors on risque deux choses. La première chose qu'on risque, c'est que cette réunification, cette indépendance se réussira. Mais seulement le problème de la nation va ressurgir dans l'avenir. Ou alors, ce problème de réunification, d'indépendance ne réussira pas. Mais seulement pour restaurer ça dans l'avenir, il y aura effusion de sang. Proprement, nous sommes dans le deuxième cas. Il s'est donc avéré qu'au fur et à mesure que le Cameroun avance, on a donc constaté que l'État existait sans la nation. Et comme la nation est le socle qui porte l'État, il y avait donc matière à ce que cette nation soit restaurée et reprenne son véritable pouvoir à un État qui a marginalisé le fait que la nation ne s'est pas fondée pendant pratiquement 70 ans. C'est dans ce chemin que nous sommes aujourd'hui. La nation camerounaise est essentiellement formée des deux paradigmes politiques dans lesquels nous vivons aujourd'hui ou que nous avons vécu. C'est-à-dire le Cameroun francophone avec son éducation, sa culture et son héritage culturel, du moins son héritage historique, et le Cameroun anglophone avec sa tradition anglo-saxonne. Ce sont ces deux vécus des peuples coalisés qui forment la nation camerounaise. Et du moment où on ne va pas dans le sens de faire comprendre aux gens qui sont dans deux réalités historiques différentes et que ces deux réalités, dans le fil de vivre ensemble, doivent garder chacune son authenticité du point de vue culturel et historique, tout en cheminant ensemble pour mettre au-dessus d'eux un État à leur service, alors on passe à côté. C'est pour ça que ce problème arrive aujourd'hui. Et si nous voulons résoudre cette situation, on est donc obligé de rentrer dans les fondamentaux de la nation. Les valeurs sur lesquelles le Camerounais francophone et anglophone doivent se retrouver pour former un, chacun en gardant son authenticité. Et ça ne se fait pas dans la douleur. Le gouvernement n'est que l'instrument qu'on utilise. Le gouvernement n'a aucun pouvoir. Le pouvoir appartient au peuple. Qui peut le faire et le défaire à tout moment? Il peut décider, le peuple, de confier son administration à qui il veut. C'est de ça qu'il est question. On n'a pas formé les Camerounais comme ça à l'école. Et c'est ça qui fait la faillite de notre pays aujourd'hui. Parce que la jeunesse camerounaise, celle des années d'il y a 35 ans aujourd'hui, ne connaît pas l'histoire du Cameroun. Donc, l'hypothèse de dialogue, qui est quelque chose de très fondamental, si on veut réellement sauver le Cameroun, on doit remettre sur la table un nouveau contrat social. On doit remettre le pouvoir à la nation, qui doit choisir le mode de gouvernance dans lequel il doit conduire son peuple. Et pour le moment, ayant fait toute l'histoire, ayant regardé tous les bords, on a donc compris que le modèle de gouvernance qui convient aujourd'hui au Cameroun, pour que les anglophones se sentent à l'aise et que les francophones se sentent à l'aise, c'est le fédéralisme. Il ne faudrait pas qu'on se leurre. On ne peut pas admettre que les atouts historiques, parce que les anglophones ont été formés dans l'île d'arrêt Roll. Depuis la nuit des temps, ils ont été formés à élire ceux qui leur gouvernent, à respecter la loi, à respecter l'avocat, à respecter le contrat, contrairement aux francophones qui n'ont pas été formés comme ça. Et c'est pour ça qu'aujourd'hui, les deux entités ne se retrouvent pas parce que les deux entités, historiquement parlant, n'ont pas la même formation, n'ont pas le même héritage. Donc ceux qui nous gèrent là, qui ont échoué, il faudrait qu'on soit clair. On ne peut plus leur faire confiance. Pour mon avis personnel, qui n'est pas l'avis de mon parti politique, moi j'aurais souhaité que ce dialogue inclusif parvienne à mettre sur pied un gouvernement de transition automatique. Oui, qu'on mette sur pied, après tous les pourparlers, un gouvernement de transition qui doit conduire le Cameroun dans la réforme institutionnelle. Parce que la constitution actuelle doit être dissoute. Toutes les institutions du Cameroun actuel doivent être dissoutes. Et qu'on rebâtit le Cameroun sur une nouvelle constitution, un nouveau pouvoir constituant pensé dans ce dialogue inclusif avec tous les acteurs. Et que lors de ce dialogue inclusif, on décide donc de mettre sur pied un gouvernement de transition par le choix de tous les acteurs qui vont donc conduire à instaurer une nouvelle constitution, à organiser des nouvelles élections législatives, des élections qui vont porter le Cameroun au niveau de la fédération avec tous les démembrements qui s'y comportent. Mais
cela passe par le dialogue.
Un dialogue
relevé.
Effectivement, comme ça s'est passé au Bénin dans les années 90. Oui. Il faudrait qu'on aille dans ce chemin. Pas un dialogue pour lequel on retrouve des acteurs qui, il y a 3 ans, disaient que la crise n'existe pas, qu'on doit tuer tous les anglophones, parce que moi j'ai été sidéré, que j'ai vu dans la liste du littoral des hommes qui déclaraient haut et fort qu'il n'y a pas un problème anglophone. Non, Léo.
On va pas appeler
écoutez,
les noms ici quand même.
Léo, je ne cite pas des noms.
Okay.
Je suis poli sur votre plateau, mais je suis un Camerounais qui aime le Cameroun, Léo. J'ai dit que je n'irai pas en aventure, je n'irai pas en exil. Et j'ai assez de matière pour proposer la construction de mon pays. Un pays solide ne se construit pas dans le mensonge. On ne peut pas admettre, Léo, que des pyromanes d'hier qui criaient à Mondiovision qu'il n'y a aucun problème anglophone, que les anglophones, c'est les qui? Soit ceux-là qui doivent se mettre sur la table pour régler le problème anglophone. Ça, c'est pas sérieux. Ce n'est pas sérieux, Léo. Moi, j'aime ce pays. J'ai vécu au Cameroun toute mon enfance. J'ai touché la souffrance du doigt. Et je ne peux pas être partisan du mensonge et de la souffrance, Léo. Ce n'est pas possible.
Okay, prenons quelques messages. Good evening to my Media Prime family. Mr. Liu, I think you are right. The problem we face today is caused by our colonial masters who left Cameroon in confusion. The Germans were quick were kicked out after the First World War. Then the French and the British share the country among themselves. When their time to free Cameroon came, France discovered that its territory was empty, then was given the southern Cameroon to enrich its territory. This big level of evil. Why did British Northern Cameroon went to Nigeria? Good evening to my brother Walang and only Agam, who did not take sides during the misunderstanding between the Fulani community and Amber Boys and those hosting them. Please keep up your program, is wonderful. Muhammadu Maman, writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, our brother Muhammadu. Hello, dear members of the panel. Hello, Mr. Takusi. You cannot build the future without reckoning on the past. We all want peace, and peace can only come if we speak and accept truth. Okay, Harmony Lang is writing. Good evening to you in the studio. We the Anglophones should be all thanking the boys because they are the foundation of this struggle, and if not of them, no dialogue could have been called by the president. In fact, all Cameroonians should be thanking the boys because it's a national dialogue that has been called, meaning we the Anglophones have spilled our blood for the sake of this country. Godwill is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, sir. It takes a revolution to make a solution, and revolution comes with time changing. During the 4 days of Germans, our forefathers resisted them. The British came and things got better till in the 50s that our grandparents saw that they were not happy within the union with Nigeria and thought Cameroon was better. In the 90s, Frunzi and the SDF came and asked for change. Today we are in the 21st century, a never again generation. Tabless is writing from Sac in So. Good evening, sir. We are living in a country where they keep telling you youths of today, leaders of tomorrow, in which that tomorrow never comes. How on earth will you expect someone like the old chief, the fun of Mancon Pachiriachu to talk on behalf on that daily dialogue table? We are living in the world of technology and they know little or nothing about it or the challenges of the 21st century. They did their best in the days and I respect them for that. Let them give new blood a chance. Mr. Tara Weary. Okay, we want the youth to take the lead. Greetings, gentlemen. I think the question should be what crumbled the foundation. However, we should not expect magic from this coming dialogue. Not to sound pessimistic, reconstruction is imminent. It must come. Patriotism, humility, sincerity, responsibility, and sacrifices on both sides. Any foundation not built with these principles is another time bomb. One major reason for our being here is that Cameroonians have pampered the truth for so long that most Cameroonians misinterpreted tranquility for peace. Let us accept that the truth that has been haunting us is finally here. Do we still run from it? I rest my case. Sir Mario, writing from Yaoundé. Good evening. I'm very happy about the dialogue, so peace should be. Chidima is writing from Cape Town. Stop calling, please. We can't take calls. We can only read messages. Greetings to you all. Absolutely. Cameroon has to reconstruct because it has been ramshackle. So through reconstruction, our country will be amazing country. Cliffodo writing from Kumba. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Who talking of define his position. Government cannot be above the people. Atem is writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Your panelist said the chief should go and talk to their children. Why not the chief tell to stop shooting the military? Are still burning houses at this time. Last week, they were in Munyenge. I'm Vincent, writing from Cape Town. Okay, the chief should go talk to the military. We need to know who are those who will be present in the Congress Hall on Monday and what each part they was consulted proposed. Okay, some of these messages are not really clear. Thank you. It is Bertrand writing from Kumba. Now, Walan, we are looking at the foundations that got ramshackled, like somebody said, and the need for a reconstruction. There was the tendency for parties, existing parties, to have merged in 1966 to form one party in Cameroon. Is that haunting us till today?
Certainly, you know, that was used. That was a move by the former President Ahidjo, you know, in his repressive style of government, to kick out the issue of democracy that was an Anglo-Saxon Saxon culture. I don't know so much whether that democracy, you know, happened in Francophone Cameroon, that's East Cameroon, but it was the Anglo-Saxon culture that the people, like Mr. Salomon Bayes just said now, that the people were called upon to vote who their representatives were going to be, who their leaders were going to be, and this thing, from that 1966, we started seeing a lot of intrigue in the history of Cameroon. Excuse me. Started seeing a lot of intrigue where it is claimed that the French instigated Amadou Ahidjo to assimilate the English-speaking regions of Cameroon. Otherwise, they are going to become, or they were eventually going to become so powerful, and they would dominate the French-speaking region because of the Anglo-Saxon culture. And that is seen today in Africa. Most of the countries that were colonized by Britain are doing far better than the countries that were colonized by France. The France had an agenda to scrape out all the resources in their countries and make these countries poor and beggarly, and at the limit, even keep some of them fighting wars amongst themselves, so that the attention will be completely diverted from these resources that will make them to grow, you know, and they will be concentrating only on the rifts that is being created between them, and they'll be fighting. I want to say something that is extremely important to our viewers out there. This is in response to what Mr. Takusi said a moment ago, that the government has the capacity, that Cameroonians know that the government has the capacity to crush everybody. That is extremely adventurous. The people are the owners of the power in this country, like Mr. Salomon Bayes said. If we go by such proposals and tendencies, it means that, and if it was true, it means that Cameroonians have been held hostage by a few group of people because they have the support of the military. But let me put it clear, the military is not, you know, it's not the military of a few group of people in Cameroon. It is the Cameroonian military. If they are professional, they are professional in the interest of the entire population of Cameroonian. The leadership of this country can move any minute and Cameroon will still stay. It looks like, you know, and these are tendencies that are supported in other platforms. It looks like Cameroonians, you know, it looks like we are beginning to accept the fact that the people who are there, who are governing us, are omnipotent, or they have some kind of omnipotence, that whatever they do, whether it is right or wrong, there is nothing that we can do, you know, to correct their actions, you know, either through the ballot box or through the sovereignty that we have as a people. I want to make it abundantly clear that all of that tendency is wrong. The power is in the hands of the Cameroonian people. They alone can decide who truly wants to lead them. If somebody is there through intrigues, through methods that are unorthodox, come rain, come sun, there is accountability. That person is definitely going to pay. It is a country that has been built for all Cameroonians, and not for a few people, you know, to come and dictate their rules, people to manipulate opinion. I'm just saying that if that is the case, I'm not accusing anybody. If that is not the case, then Cameroonians should take their responsibility into their hands. This issue has gone to a level where we have discovered that there is a lot of arrogance. There's a lot of neglect. The real solution is to revisit history, as Mr. Kum asked in his question. Revisit history, go to where the wound hurts and clean it, make it very clean, so that people will be satisfied with the outcome. Otherwise, I have said it, we'll keep on dancing the Bafia dance. One step forward, two steps backward.
Two steps backward. Delegates are expected in Yaoundé in in the next, this weekend, in preparation for the dialogue that is supposed to start on the Monday. It's from the 30th of this month to the 4th of October. We hear lots of stories about people being given money. Others say they have not been given money. This whole issue of money, does it taint the objectivity, sincerity of the pre-consultations?
I think, in my own view, is the beginning of failure.
Okay.
Because I think that's why I say Cameroonians need to take responsibility. Those who have been invited are people who are capable of taking charge and taking sacrifice for that purpose. So I think if people are going, they have the aim of going there to receive money, maybe for their personal issues, then I think we are going for failure. Each Cameroonian needs to take responsibility. And if we have to go for a solution, then we need to go there and be humble. And each and every Cameroonian, especially those who are directly concerned with the government, I mean, like especially the delegates, people need to be truthful, because there's a lot of lies telling, there's a lot of fake news. So I think if we have to go by money, by people receiving money, maybe for accommodation or for movement, I think it's not, for me, I think if I was selected like one of the delegates, I will not be going to expect money, or I will not need money to go for that purpose, because we are going for a solution. If, let's say, okay, the chiefs are being given money to go to their areas and maybe transport some of the boys to be part of the dialogue, then I will understand. We should not see people who are very responsible, people who have houses and they are working, they have good salaries, they are going for money again because in the name of the dialogue. No, I don't think, to my own opinion, I don't think it's a good move.
Why? Should they not transport themselves from Bamenda, from Boya, from Mundimba, and then they have to be lodged in Yaoundé to be able to aptly take part in the dialogue?
I think if you look at those people who are invited, they are not just, if let's say you go to a common man who is not capable, of taking care of that, then we'll understand. But if you look at the people who have been complaining, the people who have been receiving money, they are very responsible people. They are people who can take care of all that. Why can you not leave and say, okay, we are going for, this is nation building. We want to start building a nation. The nation is 40. Okay, now I'm going for this purpose. I have a brother, I have a friend in Yaoundé. I think I'm going to stay with that friend, or I'm going to stay with that brother to partake in this. Because some people will still receive this money, and at the end of the day, they will not stay in any hotel. They will still look for a brother. So I think Cameroonians needs to be responsible. Yes, people need to be responsible. And the irresponsible people are the people you don't believe. The same people who are in top positions, the same people who are having good salaries, the same people who have they have bonds everywhere, but they still want every Cameroonian, because I think one of the problems that we are facing is because money is still at the first generation. Money needs to turn. It needs to turn. Because if for me, I think money is something that I think one of the main problems we are facing now in this country is the problem of people not being able to manage money. Because if, let's say, everybody sits now and let's say each and every Cameroonian above 15 or above 18 years receive 10 million francs in any account, maybe mobile money or bank account, receive 10 million francs automatically on a particular day, I think I don't think there will be any problem in this country again.
You think Brazzaville will not make...
People will be irresponsible, but I think because of this crisis, a lot of people who have been wayward have gotten reasoning, because like what my brother was saying, history has not been taught. A lot of people are not aware of what has been happening. But I thank God for social media. Information has gone so widely, though a lot of informations are not very clear. But I think if I have to say something, I would say that Cameroonians need to be responsible.
Cameroonians need to be responsible and humble. Now, many questions on those to lead the delegations. Vous avez trouvé qu'il y a des problèmes sur ceux qui doivent représenter les régions à Yaoundé pour parler surtout de la crise anglophone, parce que beaucoup de journaux en ont parlé aujourd'hui que les listes sont pleines des représentants du RDPC.
Mais Léo, Léonard Koum, j'ai dit sur ce plateau, et j'ai toujours dit sur ce plateau, que le RDPC veut confisquer le Cameroun. Mettre tous les mécanismes pour confisquer le Cameroun.
Mais c'est le parti au pouvoir. Hein?
Mais le problème n'est pas le parti au pouvoir. Le RDPC, ce n'est pas un parti politique. Il faudrait qu'on soit clair. Le RDPC, c'est le parti-État. C'est une organisation qui utilise les ressources de l'État et le personnel de l'État pour se perpétrer. La configuration du RDPC est différente de toute la configuration des autres partis politiques.
Oui, mais parlons du dialogue.
Mais je suis en train de vous dire
que
le RDPC, dans son essence, et tous ceux qui y militent, n'ont pas l'envie de résoudre ce problème. C'est de ça que la question.
Et pourquoi ils vont à Yaoundé s'ils ne veulent pas résoudre ce problème?
Attendez.
Ils vont se déplacer des Marois,
Ils vont à Yaoundé pour tenir leur réunion de copinage tel un congrès du RDPC pour une fois de plus se partager la sueur des Camerounais. Léo, expliquez-moi pourquoi les consultations peuvent tourner à donner des gens des millions de francs. Constituer des listes pour que les gens aillent émarger sur les impôts des contribuables.
Oui, mais les gens ont voyagé, hein, c'est loin de quitter...
Qu'est-ce que vous appelez c'est loin?
C'est loin de quitter l'Est.
Est-ce qu'il y a une distance au Cameroun où vous pouvez dépenser plus de 50 000 pour arriver à Yaoundé?
Il y a d'autres qui sont arrivés par...
Est-ce qu'il y a une distance au Cameroun que vous pouvez dépenser plus de 50 000 pour arriver à Yaoundé?
Qui, d'après vous, devait figurer dans les listes?
Mais écoutez, quand on parle de dialogue inclusif, premièrement, le RDPC doit être le moins majorité dans les listes.
Oui, mais qui devait être dans les listes?
Ceux qui doivent figurer dans les listes, c'est ceux qui connaissent le problème. Les leaders d'opinion de tous bords.
Comme le MSC.
Mais bien sûr, c'est ce que nous avons toujours dit. Parce que le RDPC n'a jamais produit dans son programme de campagne pour l'élection de 2018 la résolution de la crise anglophone. La résolution de la crise anglophone n'a jamais été dans l'agenda du RDPC. Par contre, ça figure dans l'agenda du MRC depuis 2012. Depuis 2012, le MRC avait déjà compris qu'il y a un problème anglophone. Et nous avons intégré ça dans notre outil de campagne comme étant programme politique pour permettre au Cameroun de s'assainir. Nous avons fait le tour du Cameroun pour présenter ce programme. Le SDF nous a suivis. Le CPP a été dans la même logique. Beaucoup de membres de la société civile ont appelé à la résolution de ce problème, sauf le RDPC. Expliquez-nous donc pourquoi on peut faire confiance aujourd'hui au RDPC qui n'a jamais accepté qu'il y avait un problème anglophone, l'initiative de la résolution d'un problème qu'ils n'ont jamais accepté.
Mais pourquoi vous avez, auparavant, vous avez dit qu'il y a les gens qui figurent dans la liste, qui ont nié qu'il y avait un problème. On change d'avis à tout moment.
Mais
si on trouve qu'on s'est trompé.
Donc, ceux-là ont fait leur mea culpa pour d'abord dire qu'ils se sont trompés. Ils sont allés publiquement et ont dit qu'ils se sont trompés. Ou bien vous lisez dans leur cœur. Léo, vous parlez comme ça à un homme politique sérieux. Je n'ai pas 40 ans, Léo. Et j'aime ce pays. Je vis dans un quartier où les gens, tous les matins, affrontent le Nigeria en passant par le Bénin et ces pays pour entrer en France et en Europe. J'ai dit non à ça. J'ai fait le Ben Sikkim pendant 5 ans au Cameroun avec une licence dans la poche. Vous croyez que je n'aime pas ce pays? Mais on ne construit aucun pays dans le jeu, dans la blague.
Est-ce qu'on peut vous croire là? Vous êtes un homme politique.
Je suis en train de vous parler avec des faits. Si vous voulez des vidéos, je peux vous démontrer. Si vous voulez des photos, je peux vous démontrer. C'est pour ça que j'aime ce pays. Je ne viens pas faire de la figuration, Léo. Je ne vais jamais faire du gré à gré tant qu'il s'agit des intérêts du Cameroun, Léo. Non. Même à l'université où j'ai été, est-ce que vous pouvez concevoir que dans une université comme l'université de Douala, à mon époque, il n'y avait pas de l'eau ni de toilettes? C'est sérieux ça? Mais pourtant, les gens passaient le temps à manger de l'argent. Ce n'est pas de ce pays que nous voulons, Léo. Je ne peux pas admettre que dans mon pays, je veux sortir pour aller en France, je ne peux pas prendre Camer pour arriver en France. Vous vous rendez compte, en 2019, il n'y a aucun avion au Cameroun qui porte les fichiers du Cameroun qui arrive en France.
Nous parlons du dialogue. Hein.
Mais c'est le dialogue, c'est de ça qu'il est question.
Non, je vais... Ok, oui. Il fallait...
Léonard Kourou, qu'on va parler dans le dialogue. Je suis sérieux.
Les délégations qui viennent
posent les vrais problèmes du Cameroun. C'est de ça qu'il est question, Léo.
Est-ce qu'il peut parler aussi?
Mais bien sûr.
Et que les téléspectateurs aussi parlent. Bonsoir, frère Salomon. Merci beaucoup de votre réaction. Le problème du Cameroun n'est pas un problème d'un peuple irresponsable, mais d'un gouvernement de mensonges et de manipulation des consciences. Stop calling. We will not take any call. Good evening. There were no third party at the Fumban conference, meaning the conference was illegal. That's why the government is refusing to go for international dialogue, because there will be disproved. Dennis Nyo, writing from Likumba. Please stop calling. When you call, we cannot read messages. Good evening, Mr. Leo. If Barcelona team is playing any opponent at the same time, there are referees and match commissioners, do you think the opponent will win? Maybe it will be in another war. They say nothing is impossible in Cameroon. Miracles can happen. Good evening. They should remove our leaders before any dialogue, because they are the people to stand for Southern Cameroon. Emmanuel is writing from Kumba. Please, can you stop the calls? This one says, I'm called Tata Hilary. I live in Yaoundé, Colby Son. Good evening. I'm firmly in support of the point raised by my brother in white, because collecting money before going for the dialogue table, I'm afraid with what happened at Fumban conference in 1961 might be the same issue here, where food and drinks were supplied and our leaders didn't defend their point. Stop calling, please. I feel too bad for poor Cameroonians. What the consultation for? Ministers and almost everybody have been to the Southwest and Northwest. Why is this regime still consulting, spending taxpayers' money for something they know the solution? Too bad for parents. Fonyoy, writing from Bamuso. Hi, the president has set his own and he has tried by Gina Gifts, writing from Kumba. Good evening to you all. I love your quality of panelists and their analysis. It is difficult to manipulate the present generation. Hong Kong is a good example. Cameroon is same, but for the brutality of the military. Mr. Solomon Beas is wonderful. Jude Amabo, writing from Boya. Mr. Kum, tell Mr. Takusi, his brother Bertus, greeting him from Bangen. Okay.
Hi, Bertus.
Good evening, Uncle Liu. It's surprising that we are anxiously waiting for the outcome of the dialogue, but the Bamenda military court still called on Bazonian detainees today. Let's pray we don't witness a replica of the Fumban conference. I am Prophet Casino, watching from Bamenda. Good evening to you. Good evening to you all in the studio, especially to you, Mr. Kum. Thank you. Yes, going to Yaoundé for dialogue is already a failure to me. Because first, the people who started this issue are now in prison. And for the past 3 years now, the parliament, sure, he wants to say the parliament has not spoken about this. He started the issue, and now those who started the issue are now in prison. And for the past 3 years now, the parliament did not discuss the issue. Okay? Thank you very much for writing from Yaoundé. Don't know whether I have your name. Okay. Please stop the calls. The president has said it, when we go to the table, we will bring the problems. If we don't go to the table, it means we don't want peace. By Glory, writing from K-Town. Glory wants us to go. Good evening, sir. I like your program. Please, can you tell Mr. Takusi that the government of Cameroon has not accepted their mistakes till now? We have given the government chance long time ago, but still loving like strangers in our own fatherland. Val writing from Tatum. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm sorry to say this, but I wish to take it in good faith. How do we reconstruct amidst the massive corruption? A colleague confirmed to me this afternoon how her husband was given the sum of 200,000, and I said to myself, the dialogue is doomed to fail. Period. Let's watch it unfold. Acho Kum, writing from Kumba. They should remove our leaders first before any dialogue because they are people to stand for. Okay, I am Emmanuel from Lumba. Greetings to you all. Greetings to you too. Good evening. How can the chief go to these boys? Look, yesterday, army killed in Bafut. Okay. Hello, good evening to you all in the studio. The NS from Loom. I think Mr. Eric is the son of the soil. Let him teach the government of Cameroon what they need to know. Who is Eric here? Good evening. I think Walang Abang is talking so much sense in the show. Good evening. Future, past, present. The dialogue has to revisit the past and see into the present happenings in Cameroon for a sustainable peace in the future. Kudi Bruce in Yaoundé. Good evening. We cannot build a country through lies telling. PDM. Good evening to you all in the studio. I love your program. I'm Survivor writing from Yaoundé. Okay. Good evening to you, Survival. Good evening to all the panelists. Nothing good can come out of the so-called national dialogue if those to represent the Anglophones are the Anglophone CPDM elites. If the government wants lasting peace, then the leaders that are locked up should be released. Sisisiku Oben, writing from Limbe. Hello to the house. The 50 years has passed. We gave them our resources. It is time for them to release it back. Mr. Cheji, writing from Boya. We are out of time. Walang, I wanted you to talk about chiefs very briefly. The traditional authorities and the National Assembly, is there need to reconstruct all of them?
The chiefs, right?
You have 2 minutes, please. We are out of time.
You're talking about the chiefs?
Yes.
Yes, I think the chiefs have a legitimate place, you know, that has been undermined by the people that have lost their legitimacy at the level of their own constituency where they are chiefs, their jurisdiction. And you remember that in the town of Boya, Southwest region, about 11 chiefs had been abducted and by these Amba fighters. So the chiefs are afraid. The question is, can they confront these guys? The answer is a big no. They cannot confront these guys. They know exactly why they cannot confront these guys, because many of these chiefs belong to the CPDM. And the CPDM, as long as this crisis has existed, have not sought to address the crisis in any way. It is other civil society organizations and other political parties in Cameroon that are talking about the crisis. The crisis has lasted 3 years without a solution because the CPDM was silent in the parliament and in the Senate. It was a taboo to raise the question of the crisis in Cameroon. I think that it is just being the way it is because people failed to assume their responsibility. To talk a little about, permit me talk a little about the invitation of, that's 30 seconds. I'm sure I still have 30 seconds. The invitation of the separatist leaders abroad. I think there is something that is really amiss here. The first, Ayuk Tabe and those people are probably, in the eyes of the government, guilty of the same crimes. So if Ayuk Tabe was arrested or abducted with his Naira 9 from Nigeria to Cameroon, tried and imprisoned to life imprisonment, I think that the people, I'm not the one saying it, I think that these people who have been invited will be thinking in the same light that if they come here and they, being colleagues of Ayuk Tabe or ring leaders of the secessionist tendencies in Cameroon, they are going to have the same kind of treatment, like Ayutabi, they will be conducted to the military tribunal, tried and sentenced to, please, just tried and sentenced to life imprisonment. I think there is no credibility at that level.
Okay, we just want to read the names of those who have been invited from the diaspora as separatist leaders from the diaspora to be part of the national dialogue. We have Mr. Milton Taka, who has been invited, Mr. Elvis Kometa, who has been invited, Mr. Sebastian Barik, Mr. Ayabacho Lucas, Mr. Mark Barretta, Mr. Derek Yu, Mr. John Ba Akuru, Dr. Samuel Saku Ikome, Dr. Akwanga Ebenezer, Madame Sally Likowo, Jenny Toshber, Mr. Christmas Ebini. Yes, so these are the names who have been invited, persons living out of the country, involved in pro-independence activities, invited to be part of the Grand National Dialogue. The question now is whether they are going to come or not. That is for them to decide. We have come to the end of the program for today. Mr. Takusi, this was your first appearance on the show today. We are glad you came. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. I think it's my pleasure, and I hope to be here more often.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Monsieur Salomon Béas, il est bien vrai que tu es venu en retard, mais vous vous êtes rattrapé. Merci d'être venu.
C'est moi qui vous remercie, Léo. Je vous ai toujours dit, tant que j'ai la force pour servir ce pays, je serai toujours présent. Et tant que j'aurai la possibilité de parler aux Camerounais, je dirai la vérité. Parce qu'on ne construit pas un pays avec des bases fausses. J'aime ce pays et je voudrais qu'on parle du Cameroun comme on parle des États-Unis, de la Chine, de la Russie et de d'autres pays émergents. Ce n'est pas un pays qu'on ne parle que dans du négatif, où les ministres volent des centaines de milliards, ils sont emprisonnés, nos industries sont privatisées, nos aéroports sont privatisés, nos rues sont détruites, nos ministres vont se soigner en Europe alors que le commun des mortels n'est pas capable de recevoir un seul soin. Les insuffisants rénaux meurent tous les jours, alors que ce sont des pathologies que dans d'autres pays, on prend à bras le corps. Non, ce n'est pas de ce pays que j'ai besoin. C'est pour ça que ceux qui vont là dans ce dialogue-là, et qu'ils partent là-bas pour leurs intérêts, le peuple les prendra en témoin et non, on ne leur fera pas du cadeau. Parce que nous aimons ce pays et nous croyons que nous avons assez souffert. Il faut que pour une fois de plus, qu'on mette des bases crédibles pour que le Cameroun soit un pays qui peut essayer de se relever et être à l'image de d'autres pays et évoluer.
Walangaban, thank you for coming to the show this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. I'll just say one last point. I think that, it would have been of interest to the government to have invited these guys earlier, because 5 days, the guys in the diaspora, 5 days is so short a period for them to decide on all the stakes about this thing. Number two, I think that the government, to show some good faith and to show these people that they are credible, they would have liberated Ayuk Tabe and the others, because they are not different. Yes, put them on the table like that. I invited these guys because they are not different. I want to seize the opportunity to thank the millions of viewers out there, who are watching this program. I hope we live up to their expectations, and I think that next time if you invite us and give us the opportunity, we will do better. Thanks to my co-panelists and thanks to you also.
Okay, we want to thank you, televiewers who took time off to follow the program, especially those of you who sent text messages. Unfortunately, we can never read all the messages. There are just so many. And to the production team, Desmond, we say thank you. And to you, Eli, we say immensely, we are grateful. And to you, Tabi, Tambe, Brian, who is supervising our work out here, we say thank you. And to you, Corinne, who should be at the broadcasting, we say thank you. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.